Salute. Welcome to the show. We're live. The streets are buzzing. Hope everyone's doing well on this Sunday, this super sporting Sunday. Knicks Nation, we here. How we feeling? Let's chop it up. And I know it's football Sunday. We've got lots to talk about. But the New York Knicks were in action, of course, to finish off the FIBA World Cup tournament. We'll dissect it. We'll see what we can take from this tournament. We'll talk about the preseason coming up. And shout out to the chat. How's everyone feeling after this performance this morning as Team USA lost to Canada for the bronze medal? But we're going to talk a lot more about RJ Barrett, celebrate his achievement because he definitely stepped up. And I'm going to give my grades for the Knicks tournament, overall, and what we can, the Knicks players on Team USA and what we can take out of this. And I'll give my assessment of the tournament, of course. But RJ Barrett was huge, stepping up for Canada to win their first medal in the men's national team competition. That's big for him, big for his confidence. And he definitely stepped up, 23.7 rebounds. Played 38 minutes in an overtime classic, and was a plus 21. And we see RJ Barrett receive his bronze medal. Basically, RJ Barrett played his role, which I'll give my grades later on. But he filled up the stat sheet. He scored like he needed to help his team win in such a pressure game. Obviously, this meant a lot more for Canada, I feel, than Team USA. The kind of Team USA, the vibes weren't immaculate after, of course, losing the game to qualify for the gold medal game. But definitely pride was on the line. Players were playing hard. Players were playing tough. And it was a crazy finish late in the game as Mikal Bridges tied it up. And, we see RJ Barrett, do a lot of things in this game, hit big threes. Here's a big dagger to basically seal the game and put Canada up 9. So we'll talk about RJ Barrett's efficiency, in this tournament. There was a great play where he was also targeting Austin Reeves. This is one of them, taking him to the rack on the fast break there. He could smell blood. Like I said, we will talk about our grades overall, talk about the preseason tournament, and my grades on the Knicks for this tournament. What's good, Sherwin, Shannon, Dirty Dancers in the building. Want to get your thoughts, guys, on this. This will be the last FIBA show. I know some people are quite over it by now, definitely, and I'm not here to talk about Team USA so much. Paris is where it's at. This is basically a warm-up tournament for them. Qualification to get into the Olympics. Canada's qualified as well. From a Knick fan perspective, I feel for the guys, for Team USA, for Brunson and Hart, to not get anything out of it. We got to paint the picture of, these guys are giving up their entire summer after a deep playoff run for the New York Knicks. They flew all over the world to Abu Dhabi, Malaga, Spain, the Philippines, being away from family, some of them, playing warm-up game after exhibition, and then meaningless pool games, all of that. So I feel for these guys, they wanted to get something out of it in terms of a medal. But I feel like they will get something out of it in terms of their careers and the New York Knicks. So not all is lost in this performance as well. Shannon's in the building. What's good, Dirty? Dirty says, I would bet more than half the fan base is rooting against RJ so they can win internet points. Yet people obviously is a very polarizing New York Knick. I think even the harshest of criticism as a New York Knicks fan, I think it can come from the right place. I think a lot of people want the best for a player and they're just frustrated. But then, there are just some outright haters as well. For me, I'm not looking at this game. This bronze medal game wasn't Nick versus Nick. It was country versus country. And these guys were doing their best to represent their country. Right? So, without further ado, I want to talk individually. And we'll start with RJ Barrett. And I've got his stats for the entire tournament. Brunson's stats for the entire tournament. And the same with Josh Hart. So we're really going to analyze what we can take from this tournament and try to crush some of these narratives going around. And like I said, it's mostly positive. We could take from the New York Knicks perspective from this FIBA tournament. Obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about Rokas, but he gets an honourable mention because I think he definitely stepped up for Lithuania. And I think at some point he's going to find himself in the NBA. He looks more ready than people think. So could it be one more year, maybe with Barcelona? And then maybe we see what the roster looks like, for next year, and we keep it moving. But right now we've got Emmanuel Quickley in the backup spot. We've got Deuce McBride, and I think the New York Knicks are going to take care of them. Should there be a future trade, I feel good about Rokas and what I've seen in this tournament. Evan Fournier gave a good account for himself. I feel like the world knows what Evan Fournier is. He didn't do himself a disservice, but he didn't change the narrative about what kind of player he is as well. Now, with the man of the hour, RJ Barrett, right? Well, first and foremost, he played big minutes. So he played a major role, bigger role than Brunson and Hart did. He played a whopping 38 minutes in this bronze medal game, the biggest game of Canada's, history. And you could probably say that one of the biggest games of RJ Barrett's career. Talking about second round in the playoffs, but talking about what this would mean to him to actually win that bronze for his country. The stakes are higher. So there was pressure, there was big minutes. I think RJ Barrett lived up to his role for Team Canada in the scoring role. You got people like Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You got amazing defensive wings. So RJ Barrett's role was to be SGA's sidekick for this tournament. He was the starter. His role was to fill it up and help score as well. So with that said, I think RJ Barrett gets a B+ for me ultimately. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, your grade. There were some ups, there were some downs, but overall I think the B+ is deserving. And we look at Bully Barrett's statistics for the tournament overall. He averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. For a tournament as a whole, he was in the +13. But the best thing about this situation was he shot 45% from the field as an average, 37.3% from deep as well. And he averaged 30 minutes. So the final row there, you see the average of the tournament, 30 minutes. These are stats, these are facts. You could read into this how you will. But coming into this tournament, if I could tell you that RJ Barrett, shot 37.3% on a 2.5 attempts per game, it's not a huge number, but it's solid still. 30 minutes, 45% from the field. It's an improvement on what we've seen from Barrett in NBA competition. Bear in mind, this is more physical. This is a situation where, he's playing with new teammates. There's an acclimation. There's all of that. So that's probably as high or close to his Nick scoring total with 16 points in 30 minutes. What do you guys think about that? Old school basketball, says Sherwin. Yep. Definitely. I think at times they let it get a little too physical, but I also feel like the players would have adjusted further into the tournament. Are there any kind of narratives we can kill? Well, obviously RJ Barrett struggled in a couple of games, right? There was a game where he went 1 of 10. Who was that against? That was against France in the first round. right? He went 1 of 10. There was another game where he went 1 of 8, shot 12%, and then 10% in that one, right? That was against Brazil, a solid team. So streaky still. There are some ups, there are some downs in terms of the shooting. But if we're looking at it from an average, that's what I'm trying to take from this in terms of a guy who, averaged 13 attempts per game. In a system that he's not as familiar with as well. For me, I feel like he stepped up. I'm still evaluating RJ Barrett as a player not even in his prime yet. Obviously, he's a young player. He's coming into his prime. And I think he's had a very unique trajectory. If we look at RJ Barrett's 4 years as a pro now, he's made the playoffs twice, and he's won a bronze medal in a FIBA competition. So he's building a resume for himself right now. How many players that are drafted 3rd overall get to play in the playoffs in 50% of their years? Out of the 4 years, twice in the playoffs now. And helps his country, basically being the secondary third scorer, and helping them reach the 3rd place bronze medal. Do you guys agree with me? B+? What do you think? RJ Barrett's performance. I'm seeing some uptick. Now, nothing that's going to make me feel like he's going to come into this season and have an all-star year, but it's positive for me. And what I take from this in terms of the role he played, plus minus, right? He was only in the defensive minus, basically, or in the plus minus. He was only in the minus in 2 games. -5 against Brazil and -5 against Serbia. But for me, the biggest thing I'm taking is the efficiency. 37.3% from 3 on 6 attempts. Hitting 2.4 of 6.4 attempts. And then almost scoring 17 points as an average. Dirty says Barrett's still the 35% shooter from 3 for his career, just a hair under the average, but people act like he's Russ. With that situation. I think it's not so much about RJ Barrett being worried about his 3-point ball moving forward. It's about selection as well. He shot really well from the corner threes, a lot better of catch and shoot. And then obviously off the dribble is that area where he needs, clear development. From that situation. RJ Barrett's assist game, just averaged 2 assists for the tournament. The highest he reached was 5 assists against France, again in the first round. But again, that's not his role. Usually, when he's seeing the defense open up, he takes advantage, just like this one, where he sees Austin Reeves. He sees Austin Reeves between him and the bucket, and it's barbecue chicken on this one. Now, not just that play, there was another great post-up, which we'll get to. See, this was another play where he dealt with pressure. So Austin Reeves was pressuring him at half court. This was when the game was on the line. RJ Barrett was bringing the ball up. Probably the worst defender on Team USA. Does the spin move, sees the trees, and then what does he do? He kicks it out to SGA on the left corner there. That was a great play from Barrett. Something you can take is, he's learning during pressure to run some point and make a right play. Here again, he abuses Austin Reeves, uses his back to the basket. I noticed Barrett used that move a lot more later in the NBA season. When he feels more comfortable, obviously he knows his dribble is probably not the tightest. So what does he do? He uses his size, goes left, but then back to the basket there as well. That was a nice little push shot. So not bad for a young kid in one of the most important games of his career, basically. So I can't say too much more other than RJ Barrett stepped up in his role. and we see some positive signs coming in to this New York Knicks season. Now, let's hope he can hover around that 37%, 38% from three. I don't know if he's going to shoot 6 attempts for the Knicks. Probably, if I had to guess, if he gets his 30 minutes, he probably will shoot 6 attempts. Well, Tom Thibodeau is basically a guy that wants layups or a 3-point shot. What's good, Shannon? How you feeling? Very good stat line for RJ, given the stakes and the fact that he impacted the country getting the medal. Absolutely. Playing big minutes. I think a B+ is fair, but yeah, you could go A-. I was actually thinking that too. But yeah, I went with the B+ in the end. But yeah, I can feel you on the A-. Sherwin says, I wish the +- went away. It makes 0 sense. Yeah, it can be misleading. You definitely got to look at it with a grain of salt. Sharp Powers in the building. Danny, what's good? How we feeling? We're taking what we can out of this FIBA tournament from our 3 guys, or technically our 5 guys, but 3 on the roster for the long term possibly. And we're seeing what we can take into this season, right? So, but man, yeah, RJ Barrett made me proud as a Knicks fan, right? Think about it. It could have been a hell of a lot worse. You'd have people shouting from the rooftops, let's trade him right now, if he did stink it up. The fact that he played 30 minutes a game was bigger than any New York Knick in this entire tournament. So, thoroughly deserved. Now, Captain America, we've got to talk about Jalen Brunson's tournament overall. My keynotes were Brunson, an area where people want to see him improve is not just scoring or the tunnel vision, but setting his teammates up. So one thing I can take is Brunson had a 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, which we all know as a point guard is an excellent outcome, right? Most point guards strive to be a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, but Jalen Brunson was 4-to-1 as he averaged 4 assists on the tournament with 1.3 turnovers in 20 minutes. So not a lot of minutes, but 4 assists in 20 minutes, that's better than his New York Knicks statistics, dare I say, or probably close to. Outside of that, man, his efficiency, Jalen Brunson was efficient, right? In fact, I felt like he was too passive at times. I think the Team USA's offense was stalling a little, and I think his hesitation at times did cause some late bad looks at the rim. Now, I take that down to Brunson struggling a little bit with his size. Defensively, the last 2 games he wasn't great. In the +- he was -17, -19 in the last 2 meaningful games. But as a tournament as a whole, he ended up with the +4. So, yeah, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Brunson definitely struggled defensively at times in this tournament. But was he by means the worst defender on this team? Absolutely not. There were other players a lot worse than Jalen Brunson. I think he's going to get some fair critique because, he's the head of the snake, the guy who was supposed to help USA get easier looks. And that's why I've given Brunson a C+. Despite the excellent assist-to-turnover ratio and being efficient, I felt like offensively he was too passive. There's 2 things Jalen Brunson is elite at in the NBA game. That's scoring and drawing fouls. I don't think maybe this was on Steve Kerr, but I don't think Brunson tried to score enough. Clearly, Team USA needed more scoring. I think we ended up seeing, less guys that they could rely upon. It was Tyrese, Mikal, and Anthony Edwards. Outside of that, the offense was very spotty. And I feel like Brunson could have been the medicine, the solution to that cure. But again, undersized guards do struggle a little bit in FIBA. He was getting swarmed. They were trying to rattle him, and sure, he was definitely getting fouled. He was getting fouled like hell. At some times, he was getting bumped off his spot. In fact, there was a lot of plays where he tried to milk the foul, and I could see him kind of flail his chest back, his arm, his shoulders, and he still didn't get the calls. And I think in the NBA game, we're seeing him get those kind of calls. So it was a big adjustment for Brunson. But to shoot, 50% from 54% from 2 and 38% from 3 on a small volume, you know, he was efficient, and that suggests that he should have tried to be more aggressive. Finished with averaging 11 points in 20 minutes. But you got to take the good with the bad. Salute Michael, what's good? How are we feeling? And a happy football Sunday to everyone out here. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend, and I hope your football team has won or is going to win. We know we've got the Giants playing soon, the Cowboys. We know we've got the Jets tomorrow. And we also had the US Open final. Joker won. We had a crazy UFC card yesterday with a big upset. Man, this is a crazy weekend of sports. The FIBA comps are over now, and we're all about the NBA season. Yet Sherwin's highlighting Brunson's defense. He said it was awful. Yeah, he struggled at times. I don't think as a tournament as a whole, he was bad all the time. But I think, being an undersized guard, like, I don't see many other teams putting out a 6-foot guard. And look, that was on Steve Kerr to obviously try to, come up with better solutions, better schemes. Yep, salute Michael, appreciate it. Yep, we're evaluating RJ, Brunson, and Hart's tournament, and we talked about a little bit about Rokas' honourable mention and Fournier. But is there anything else I'm missing? What did you guys see from Brunson? Yeah, I did feel Ant-Man was a little bit tunnel vision. Dirty saying, honestly, I think big issue was Ant-Man. Team just stood around watching him brick. Yep. Not a whole lot of offensive fluidity, which is not something we're used to seeing with Steve Kerr. Now, I don't think there's any excuses. They played enough warm-up games. Let's keep it a buck. They played France. They played Germany. They played Greece. They played a lot of these warm-up games. I think the schemes were just found wanting. And I think overall, to the USA's downfall, there was about 4 to 5 roster spots that were dead. Just dead bodies on the roster. Cam Johnson wasn't used. Triple J was bad. Obviously, Kessler was used very, very late in the piece. Brandon Ingram was an absolute... The selection was an absolute failure, being relegated from the starting unit and then not being healthy to play. But with those guys not having a great tournament, that allowed Josh Hart to step up. Josh Hart, I think, did himself a really good service, did his name well for this tournament in his limited role. My notes for Josh Hart is just doing Josh Hart things. This is why USA selected him. He was ever reliable, was always a plus defensively as a whole. Did his thing with 5 rebounds per 18 minutes for the tournament. That's elite. And then better than most of the bigs. He was very efficient every single game in his limited shot attempts. And I give Josh Hart a B. Just because he came in and he did what he needed to do. He rebounded, like I said, 5 out of the tournament in 18 minutes. Was 50% from 3 in his average of half an attempt. And he was 1.4 from 1.8 from 2, 78% from 2. Didn't get to the line too much in his minutes, but again, he's not really getting a lot of touches, was Josh Hart. He did try to push the break when there was that opportunity, but, Josh Hart's trying to be that glue guy. He's not trying to clog up the offense or anything like that. So they're the constructive and positive things that I take from these 3 Knicks. Now, moving ahead to Paris, I could really see Yeah, to the question in the chat earlier, Prometheus says, will Hart and Brunson get picked again for Paris 24? What do you guys think? I could definitely see Hart and Brunson both getting selected, purely for the fact is they actually bought into their role really well. We saw Brunson have to sit a lot of games late in the game, and whilst that might have hurt him, inside, may have frustrated him, Brunson, is not going to pout. He's gonna deal with that. So he's versatile, and I think USA could definitely have him as the backup point guard if a Steph Curry, if a Dame Lillard, if a Devin Booker or Bradley Beal or Jimmy Butler was to come in. I could see Jalen Brunson wanting to rectify this failure for this go around, and same with Josh Hart. I think these guys are ever reliable, and they're prideful, and I think they're hungry. So I could see those guys getting selected again. But outside of that, man, the biggest takeaway positively was RJ Barrett stepping up in his bigger role. Brunson, we've seen struggle defensively in the NBA at times, so nothing was eye-opening there. But I think that narrative is kind of pushed a little bit more than it should. Again, he's a 6-foot guard. Physically, you can only do what your limitations are. And I felt like, outside of the final 2 games, Brunson was more than okay defensively. So we just recap Brunson's figures again. But what did he do? He helped his case in terms of running the point and being a distributor with the 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio in FIBA. So he wasn't rushed. He wasn't forced to turn the ball over. He was bumped. He was fouled a lot. And he was solid on that end. Maybe the biggest disappointment for me was the fact that he wasn't, playing more minutes down the stretch. Could that have helped Team USA offensively? That's Steve Kerr's decision. But if you had told me Brunson would have averaged 20 minutes for the entire tournament, I probably would have said that's a little under what I would have expected. I would have probably expected 25 to 27 minutes a night, knowing full well that they've got depth and then they can rotate some dudes. But did they fall in love with Austin Reeves a little too much? In the end, it cost Team USA big time, especially with Bully Barrett abusing him with the post-ups and all of those moves. See there, Ant-Man, that was Bridges, leave Barrett all alone on that one. Speaking of Ant-Man, Knicks Nation on Twitter has pulled this one out of the archives. Remember this, when Ant-Man had some things to say. This was posted by Jim Babcock. Salute.
Because that's what we wanted, taking a shot. RJ Barrett caught it, and, if he would have made the shot, we would live with it. Because that's what we wanted, taking a shot. We didn't want anybody else taking it. So RJ Barrett caught it, and, if he would have made the shot, we would live with it. Because that's what we wanted, taking a shot. We didn't want anybody else taking it.
Yeah. So Bully Barrett got the final laugh with that situation. I'm happy that the 3-point ball was something that was flowing as well. Yeah, BI was a dud. Salute, Shannon. Yeah, I think every tournament's a learning lesson. I think selection-wise, they had too many dead bodies that were just not useful. And I think they nailed half of the roster. I think Mikal Bridges, Ant-Man, Tyrese, Brunson, Hart. I think Kessler, obviously he was there as the backup big. He was fine. In fact, I think Cam Johnson really would have been fine technically. I think they didn't utilize his floor spacing enough. But then you've obviously got to take away Brandon Ingram. I think Austin Reeves defensively, they probably needed someone a little more versatile and a better ball handler. I've seen some people mention Alex Caruso. They needed another guy like Josh Hart, but a guy who could go, could score a bit more than Josh Hart as well. I think they went too offensive minded with Austin Reeves. Obviously with Bridges, with Tyrese, with Ant-Man, with Brunson, and Brandon Ingram. I think there was enough scoring at the wing spot. Did this also expose the lack of post-up game in the NBA, going on around the world as well with USA? I think so. I think having at least one of your bigs with a post-up game is important, and I think you could argue that was a difference with the Knicks in the Heat series. What's Bam Adebayo able to do? He's able to play back to the basket and face up also. And I think Bam Adebayo is a guy that USA could definitely target. Obviously, Grant Hill, once he gets back, he's going to try to get everybody. Embiid, he's going to try to get KD, Steph, and all of that. But I think, with Mitchell Robinson, that highlights a limitation, I would say, that Mitch has. Elite rebounder, elite above the rim, but no post-up game. Now, Randall obviously has that post-up game. I think he would be a good addition. So I can see Brunson, Hart returning. I could see Ant-Man and Bridges and Tyrese. And I think they might clean up the rest, and they might make the sweeping changes. I mean, let's keep it real. Guys like Jimmy Butler, Booker, Bradley Beal, Tatum, Brown, some of these guys might want to come back. I know the failure of 2019 had some players in that team. Miles Turner, he's not a good rebounder as well. I don't know if they looked in that direction ever again. I think Jarrett Allen is technically bigger, but he has limitations as well. If I'm keeping it real, I would probably take Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, and Mitchell Robinson. I think that's probably enough. Now we can't forget about the winners overall, and the All-Star 5 was selected. So shout out to Germany for winning, beating Serbia, and Dennis Schroeder, a guy who I wouldn't expected to win the MVP, has definitely boosted his stock. Imagine if he was still a free agent right now. He's probably kicking himself that he signed that below market deal with Toronto for $13 million. I think in this landscape, if Josh Hart's earning $20 million, I think Dennis Schroeder is probably definitely worth, 16, 17, 18 million at least. But Toronto got him on a solid deal. Serbia win the silver, and of course RJ Barrett for Team Canada. Congratulations for winning their first ever medal at a competition. Now we have Anthony Edwards make the All-Star 5 with Bogey, Luka, SGA, and Dennis. Of course, and we see Carmelo Anthony there. He was sitting courtside during that crazy finish. Try to pull up that finish. This was a move where Brunson actually prevented an RJ Barrett break. He guessed right, and the commentary was all over it, saying, well, Brunson knows the moves. He knew it was coming. There was another... here was another face-up from Bully Barrett. He could have drove on this one. He had Walker Kessler on him, but he decided to just pull up and drain it. So there was actually some floor spacing on this one. There was no one in the paint, but he pulled up and swished it. But the handles look a little tighter. Still need to see more with the three-point shooting. But here was the crazy miss from Mikal Bridges. That was RJ's mum, apparently, in the crowd.
It's incredible.
This is one of the craziest plays. That was just, are you kidding me moment. Like, I've watched a lot of ball, and that was just like a perfect miss. It's almost like the bigs just didn't know, like didn't expect it. Yeah, Ant-Man's a funny dude, 100%. Michael says, I'm glad overall, CT, that FIBA is over and nobody got hurt on the New York Knicks. Great point. How could we forget about that? That was one of my highlights. Targets coming into this tournament, absolutely on point, Michael, about that for our guys. And I mentioned the disappointment that Hart and Brunson would be feeling. Right, we don't feel that same disappointment in terms of from a personal standpoint. But man, these guys gave up their entire summer. And so I can't do anything else but just shout them out, and representing their country. But we gave them the grades on screen. RJ stepped up big with a B+, Brunson with a C+, and Josh Hart with a B. I was a little harder on Brunson because I just feel like he had more to give. And I think he definitely would assess it the same way. I think he's very critical of himself and, wants more. Definitely, as the starting point guard, would feel like it's a failure for him that USA did not medal. But this brings me to a point I want to make about, okay, coming into this Knicks season now, we've got preseason less than a month away, right? These guys need a little bit of rest. But I think the disappointment, the fuel of this loss will be fuel to the fire for Brunson and Hart now coming into the season. Now, they'll be disappointed. They'll be kicking themselves that, they gave up their summer and there's nothing to show for it, really. There's no medal. There's disappointment. There's people pointing fingers. There's people slandering them even, saying, we don't want them to ever represent USA ever again. All of that. As a player, as a competitor, what do you think that is going to do for these guys now when they get back to US soil and start the NBA season? Right, Brunson's going to be absolutely furious with this situation. Once he gets over the initial disappointment, he's going to take it all out on the New York Knicks opponents. Now, and I think that's going to be a fuel to their fire for starting this season now. That wouldn't be there if they won gold. If they won gold, they would probably just come back to the US feeling good about themselves and FIBA would be done for. And it'd be the NBA season now. But, yeah, the fact that they ended up empty-handed, I think is definitely going to make them use the NBA game to get back to winning ways, basically, as a competitor. But also, maybe having an outlook for next year. Salute, at least the USA had qualified. So if you're going to lose a tournament, this is the one. And USA don't care about the World Cup like they do the Olympics, which is the premier tournament. For a lot of teams, this is just an ability to qualify for Paris. But I tell you what, they would have learnt a lot, man, about what they need to do to select the right guys. And I think, Grant Hill is going to be doing a lot of scouting around the league this year. You guys let me know about the bigs, right? We know everything else was kind of solid for USA outside of some of the role players. But in terms of the NBA bigs, who would you select? Who would you want to? Who do you think might get selected and be brought into this tournament? Kevon Looney, I've been seeing suggested. Draymond Green, could be that more a FIBA-minded guy. Sets hard screens, moving screens, can get chippy, doesn't falter under pressure. Just loves that little bit of aggro about it. Draymond Green could be in. And hey, if Steph Curry commits, I think best believe Draymond Green's in. If Brunson's going, hell, that might spur Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson to go back. But you know Bully Barrett's going to return, stronger, older, wiser as well. So I think the Canadian program is going to be more hungry. Knicks won, salute. I'm a homer, but I think our Tibbs coached Knicks would have did better. I was actually thinking similar to what you were saying, fam, in terms of if Tibbs was the coach of this team, I think we would have got a better outcome in terms of pushing the right buttons. No, I'm not going to big up Tibbs' schemes or anything like that. There's no way, Tibbs could out scheme Steve Kerr. But what is Tibbs good at? He's good at extracting the most out of his personnel and putting the right guys in the right spots. And I think guys didn't play enough minutes, like impactful guys. He only made last-minute moves with Kessler, playing Josh Hart. And I think I would have put Jalen Brunson in some more high pick and roll. Try to get him downhill, try to get him more separation. Space the floor out as well. Joel Embiid, Shannon, that's a huge name that everyone's going to be targeting now in terms of Cameroon, France, and USA as well. He's going to be sitting there thinking, I've got my choice now. If I'm Embiid, I would choose USA. Obviously, I can't decide for the man, but with Wembanyama set to probably, be that man for France for the next decade and a half, I do think Joel Embiid would be utilized better on Team USA, 100%. Imagine him running around, setting picks for Steph Curry and these kind of Damian Lillard, these shooters from deep. Yeah, in fact, I think Damian Lillard could really be a name to watch because his deep shooting range, when dudes try to press, dudes try to be physical, you need that zone buster out there, such as a Booker or a Dame. That's one of the reasons why Carmelo Anthony was one of the best FIBA players as well, right? He's a knockdown shooter, catch and shoot, that you just can't leave open, and a zone buster out there for Carmelo. Be a great point, Knicks won. Dirty saying, as much as I dislike him, Trey, ice cold Trey, should have been on the roster. Not enough talent on this squad to turn his nose up. Yeah, I don't know the full story. Did Trey say I want to go? Did Trey put his hand up and he was ignored? Because that's fascinating. Yeah. I'm going to guess on the surface they felt like they needed a little more size, but Austin Reeves turned out that his size wasn't really effective. Austin Reeves had some good moments. I don't want to crap on Austin Reeves for the whole way, but again, the coaching, he was thrown into tough spots a little too much, especially against that Lithuania and Germany game when they were targeting him. Yep. Yeah, 100%, Michael. Steph, I think Steph's in. Dame, I think probably in if he puts his hand up. I think Devin. I think KD. Now, Jason Tatum would be a good dude. I would definitely pick Tatum over Brown. We know Brown's handles is suspect, and there's the FIBA court is smaller, crowded, less spacing. I wouldn't select Jaylen Brown from that. I think he would be a turnover machine in the FIBA game in terms of dribbling. But I do think Tatum. Yeah, Bully Barrett, great performance overall for his FIBA World Cup, winning a bronze, Michael. And I'll say this thing again, to put things in perspective, RJ Barrett's 23 years old. He's made the playoffs 2 out of 4 years as a pro and has now won a bronze medal for his country. That's not a bad resume for a guy who just turned 23 already. So he's building a resume in terms of helping his teams, playing a role. He's not at that level where people want him to be an all-star or expecting him to be being the number one option. He's not that yet. But but he's on track. He's on track to be an all-star, I think, at some point in his career by this trajectory. Now, it's probably going to happen a lot later than people hoped. It might be when he's 26, 27, 28, maybe later, who knows. But I think for his 4 years as a pro, it's hard to be overly critical of him, I think. There's areas of weakness that he needs to improve. He's streaky, he's inconsistent, but how many young players are consistent? It's a mixed bag, I think, at times. Now, I hope that Brunson, can grow into that playmaking role, and more when needed, and not just sort of, being tunnel vision and taking over games all the time. Get the ball moving. And I think if Barrett proven this tournament, if he gets good looks, we're seeing the 3-point ball start to fall. There. Talk about one of the biggest plays in RJ Barrett's career was this dagger. Austin Reeves, again, leaves the man. But I don't blame him, actually, because SGA was cooking. That one, he was cooking. But that's actually been a spot where RJ Barrett struggled, the front on three, the straight on three. So yeah, that was a dagger. I mentioned, I feel good about RJ Barrett running the break, and there he is. Where we have it. Yeah, you could smell blood on this fast break with Austin Reeves. There, everyone's still trying to say, get back, get back. And then RJ Barrett just takes advantage of that. So, in terms of Barrett playing 2 out of 4 years being in the playoffs, big games for Duke, I think that's really helped RJ Barrett's mentality. They talk about a player that is inconsistent, but what happens with RJ Barrett when the moment is bright? He's shown so far that he doesn't shrink. So that's a good quality to have in terms of that. And I think being in the playoffs twice has helped that, and being in this FIBA tournament, is something that we're really going to be able to take from the Knicks for RJ Barrett now at 23. I think we're going to see his confidence at a new level. RJ Barrett's always been quite confident, but I think we're going to see his confidence go to a new level. So hopefully that translates to good shot selection, playmaking, keeping his head up and all of that. But we know it's going to translate to a lot of scoring, I think, as well. So could RJ Barrett have another 20 points per game season on less minutes? Hopefully more efficiency, but less minutes, maybe 20 points per game, we'll see. Cody, what's good? Yeah, Austin Reeves was hunted. Yep, big time. And maybe that's no lie in his contract. He was signed for $58 million. Some people thought, why didn't they give him $100 million? Maybe that's why we're seeing, he's not yet proven himself, I think, which is why he's on that deal. But yeah, I think out of our young fellas with Grimes, with RJ, with Quickly, there's a lot to like with the upside, of these guys. And obviously we bring back the veterans in Brunson and Randall, to lead the team, be leaders on and off the court, as well. But I was proud of Josh Hart's performances too. For him to be elevated into the starting lineup is something that factors into my considerations of giving him a B, because he definitely won the trust of the coach. That's basically everywhere Josh Hart goes, he wins the trust of the coach. Yep, facts, Michael. Some people are harsh on Brunson. I don't know if they're using him as a scapegoat. Maybe some are. I think Austin Reeves, Jaren Jackson is getting a lot of heat, but Brunson's still getting heat. And I feel like, people are picking on him because he's the starting point guard. I think they probably expected him to be better defensively, score more as well. But the man's averaged 20 minutes a game. Like I said, I don't think he was utilized enough. As we pull up Brunson's stats for the tournament again, if there's one big surprise that if you told me before the tournament, I would have been surprised, and that's Brunson averaging 20 minutes as the starting point guard. Now, he might have done it for defensive purposes, but did it help USA offensively? It didn't. Too much ISO, heavy, no ball movement, stagnation, all of those things. And like I said, two things Jalen Brunson's elite at: drawing fouls and scoring. And I think the offense got stuck in mud a lot. There wasn't enough ball movement. Now, the issue is with FIBA, you could be more physical with Brunson. So there was fouls that he wasn't getting. He would have got those fouls in the NBA game. And so, Brunson needed to maybe learn the FIBA game a bit more. I think he'll be back. He'll be better. I think he needs to sell some of those calls a bit more. But there were sometimes he was getting absolutely hammered. He was getting whacked, driving to the cup as well for no foul calls. So I don't really see it as a reflection, this tournament, as a poor reflection on Brunson, because if you know the FIBA game, and experts were saying this before the tournament, undersized guards can struggle in FIBA. It's got nothing to do with the player themselves or their skill set. It's just, you saw Serbia, every guy on the court's basically 6'7", 6'6". Lithuania had 6'5", 6'6" guards as well. There's a lot of size out there. So what could change with USA guys? I think Steve Kerr might be back. If I'm head of USA, why not get Eric Spoelstra? Why take Eric Spoelstra all the way there to be the assistant? To me, I'm going to shake it up and get Eric Spoelstra up in there. He knows how to be versatile, and change up the lineups. The second thing is whoever selected this team, Grant Hill or the collective, those guys need to learn from this tournament and absolutely come back with more experience, more size, and more versatility. And I think we'll be good. USA will be good for Paris. Obviously, a lot of teams are going to get better, but I think the USA will learn. And I don't think they care too much. It's a disappointment, but I feel like they're more used to it. Obviously they didn't win in 2019. Now 2023, they didn't win. And to be honest with you, I think they did underestimate, whilst they'll never admit it, I think the squad that they thought they brought was going to be well and truly good enough to win the gold. But I think they've just, they've found out now that at least 5 to 6 guys were wastes. I left out Bobby Portis before. I think, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't really that was a wasted spot. I think if you're going to bring a big, bring a proper big. Don't bring somebody in between. Jaren Jackson was another one, right? He should have been the starting 4, not the 5. But also this point's been made. We don't know who rejected the offer, who turned the USA down. Maybe they did ask Mitch. Maybe they did ask Miles Turner. Some of these guys may have played deep into the playoffs and just said, I can't be bothered. I want to play next year, but I don't want to go all the way to the Philippines and play in this tournament. So we see. But post-up game, back to the basket. Cody, absolutely, with size. We see a lot of these other bigs on these other teams. They're not much of face-up guys. They're back to the basket, but able to move the ball. I think Phil Jackson would be licking his lips in terms of like the triangle, the player movement back to the basket, cutting, all of that kind of stuff is exactly what Phil Jackson likes with the triangle. and all of that stuff. Bigs that are able to pass. I remember watching Australia with Andrew Bogut. They had Dellavedova, Joe Ingles, Aaron Baines, and Paddy Mills, and Andrew Bogut, and they were that team really had cohesion, and they were able to win bronze because you had an elite big man that could pass the ball. It was like Andrew Bogut at the top of the key, Paddy Mills, Matthew Dellavedova cutting all over the place, and Bogut bounce passes and finding guys in their spots and and things like that. So I think that's a great skill set for FIBA with the big man, and I think the Joker is a guy that's going to thrive in that. For Team USA, I think Embiid has to be the number one target, I think, to try to get up in here. We know Embiid's good at selling calls. He can rebound. He can shoot it. He can face up. Yep. Don't take a bunch of players from the lotto teams. Yeah, fact. You would think they're hungry. But yeah, man, it's tough to laugh. But yeah, these guys are going to get crucified nonetheless. That's part of their legacy, basically. Speaking of legacy, Shah legacy salute. Trae Young would have lit that short 3-point line up. He would have put on an offensive show. And Dame, I mentioned too. Dame, Steph, and Trae. I obviously can't speak for Brunson, but as a Knicks fan, if I'm being selfish, I would prefer Brunson don't go to Paris next year as well. That's assuming we don't win the championship this year. If we win the championship, he can do whatever the hell he likes. But if we go on a deep playoff run and we don't win the chip this year, I would prefer that Jalen Brunson have less mileage and rest up. But send Josh Hart, send Randall, send Mitch. Hell, Quickly might. Let's say Quickly has a 6-man all-star type year. They might want an Emmanuel Quickly coming off their bench, lighting it up. He's got strength. He's good defensively. Yeah, he can bust the zone as well. Could he be a smoky for Paris? His IQ. It all depends on the season he has. But Mitchell Robinson might be like, hey, what about me? You guys talking about Jarrett Allen, Plumlee, Miles Turner, all of this, Bam Adebayo. He might be a name that's worth looking at. DiVincenzo possibly is a bench piece. You never know. I think one thing they need is their stars, their A-listers, but then they need guys to do the dirty work. They need a Josh Hart still. I could see them, bringing back a Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, guys that can play the role, but provided that they use the role. I think. Knicks one saying Edwards botched the floor chemistry, trying to be that superhero. Let some hype get to his head. Yeah, it's kind of like he's the number one guy on the team offensively, but there was some other guys. I think Brunson could have done more offensively. Tyrese could have done more as well. To be brutally honest, now I think Tyrese struggled offensively too. We know, as a draft scout coming in, the knock was his handles. He's a bit loose in traffic, and I think that showed. Tyrese couldn't create much as well. He'll get the floor. His pocket picked as well. I think those guards with lower center of gravity, with a tight handle that can shoot and good defensively. I think guys like Jimmy Butler, Alex Caruso. I think Middleton did okay in FIBA as well. Those guys as well. Dame, Steph, those dudes with the ball on a string. I think. Yep. Yeah, we don't know if Ingram really was unhealthy. We don't know if it was, he just couldn't be damned after that. But again, I don't I don't blame him, because you gave up your entire summer. You're the starting four-man, and then you get taken out of the lineup as well. So, in fact, that's the risk. That's why a lot of these players don't commit, to FIBA. If you think about it, if you're a big NBA name, you've got more to lose doing this FIBA thing than you have to gain. If we're keeping it a buck, right? Like, do you really think Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart are coming back now, having boosted their stock, boosted their name, right? As Knicks fans, we know what they're capable of, but the wider NBA is probably going to be clowning them now, saying we don't want them a part of USA anymore. But, some of those guys, they're just casuals, basically. I think you got to point the first question, the first finger at the selection. The second one was the coaching. I think, some questionable moves, and a couple of redundancies with that. But yeah, that's about enough for USA in terms of what they could do different and what next year is going to look like. But yeah, we also got to celebrate the positives through and through for this tournament. It's RJ Barrett proving a lot of people wrong. He averaged 30 minutes. Had basically two really poor shooting games, 1 of 8 and 1 of 10. But outside of that, in a major role, did us proud. Hit the 3 ball at 37.5% for the tournament. Averaged 16.8 points in his 30 minutes. His efficiency on the 2 was 45%. So, yeah, 45.4% from the 2 for the tournament. So that's inching closer to 50. That's up there. And like I said, 37.5% from 3 on an average of 6.4 attempts. So, yeah, it's at the point where it's streaky, but he's not. If he's shooting that 3-point number in the NBA, that's not known as a bad 3-point shooter. That's not someone that someone's going to hope to leave open. That's someone with the capability of making you pay. I think in the catch and shoot. Michael says, I believe a coach who's coaching now than Grant Hill. Yeah, let's see what they do. Michael's given Josh Hart the B-. Yeah, I can feel you on that. Jeff's in the building. Why do these coaches insist on playing small ball and not give bigs a bigger role? That's $1 million question, man. Now I think the NBA is about entertainment, selling tickets, all of that stuff, and I think highlight packages, kids growing up watching Steph, Dame. I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and this is quite funny, but I don't know if you guys play 2K, but it'd be interesting to see, the percentages of people who create guards and shooters versus those that create bigs. Because the game seems to be moving away from bigs, just, in general. I think as people who just want to be, they want to be flashy. But the funny thing is, who were the last 2 MVPs? Even the last 3 MVPs, if you classify Giannis as a big, you got Joker, Joel, and Giannis. 3 bigs that last won the MVP. So that's actually a moving of the tide in terms of the NBA acknowledging that the big man is the most valuable player on a team, the most valuable player in the league. Yeah, with Brandon Ingram, I feel like he just didn't adjust to the FIBA game. Slender dude, absolutely talented, shoots the lights out, great offensive player. I think in FIBA, we also noticed, the court is smaller, there's less spacing. I think, now Brandon Ingram, is he a great 3-point shooter? He's good in the mid-range. I think a guy that thrives in FIBA is probably someone with deeper range, 3-point range. We saw a dude like that Germany guy, Obst. We saw the dude from Serbia and Lithuania also light it up. That's something that's actually overlooked. Not just the big man has improved around the world, the shooters around the world have improved. Now, yeah, these unheralded players from Lithuania, Serbia, Germany, all of that, nobody knows their names, really. But some of these dudes come in and they shoot. They must shoot the hell out of the ball in training as well. Yeah, 100%. We haven't mentioned Dylan Brooks' name, Cody. People looking at like, man, 39 points, Dylan Brooks. It was an overtime game, so there was more minutes. But, Dylan Brooks definitely helped his stock, I think. He was the best defender in the entire tournament. Dylan Brooks won Defensive Player. Josh Giddey won Rising Star. The Latvia's coach won Coach of the Tournament. And we looked at the starting five as well for the tournament, all NBA. This is why they say the NBA is the world champions. Basically, I know it's a hot debate at the moment, but yeah, the all-stars of the tournament, Luka, Bogey, Ant-Man, SGA, and Schroeder. 5 NBA players right now, all representing their countries. But I think, FIBA's definitely not for soft players. It's tough, but I think they let it go a little too far in terms of some of the physicality. But yeah, and also an adjustment, man. Some of these stars aren't used to getting smashed and not getting a call. I think that's what made Luka, bug out. Yeah, also. But it also boosts the stock, like Cody said, of SGA, Barrett. Those dudes took contact and delivered. That's the difference, man. RJ Barrett's always been a man in a man's body right now. He takes contact and he can finish and he can score and do all of that. He can basically bully dudes. Is that finish on the break, right? He's looking at Austin Reeves like chopped liver. Basically almost pushed Austin Reeves back into the first row with that drive, man. I don't know why. Austin Reeves should have just stood there to try to take the charge, and let him Euro step. In a league of guards, good bigs do stand out. Yeah, great point too. Again, it makes you wonder, who are they going to call upon? I asked the chat tonight, which bigs would you select if you're USA? I think if Bam agrees, if Bam wants to, I think he'll come. Obviously, good rebounder, a little undersized but strong. And then I think you got to go after Joel Embiid. You just got to go after a huge big. Obviously, there's going to be the Joker for Serbia. There's going to be Wembanyama. There's going to be Chris Stapps. We'll see how many other bigs. But yeah, there's going to be Giannis possibly. Next year as well. But yeah, in summing up, man, this ties a bow on FIBA until next year. In just 9 months' time, 10 months' time, we'll be talking about Paris again. But between then and now, it's the NBA full steam ahead. And I said that Hart and Brunson will take this chip into the season now. They're going to be frustrated, and I think they're going to try to take their frustrations out on the opponents coming up. We got Boston on October 9, straight up, less than a month's time. Now, I think the guys will be assembling for training camp right now. We're coming into the season with a new face. minus Obi Toppin. Wish him well, and hope he thrives in Indiana. But yeah, it's a tough situation. And now we got Dante DiVincenzo. The New York Knicks signed Charlie Brown to a Exhibit 10 deal. Yeah, so that was something eye-opening. But I do think Charlie Brown's probably just going to be in Westchester. But you just never know. If he thrives in camp, he might steal, Roby's spot. David, salute. Yeah, this is a good point about marketing. People say, yeah, don't develop the big man. Their sneakers don't sell. That's true. Often they, weren't always the first player picked, in pickup games, pickup ball, AAU, all of that. But it's kind of funny that I mentioned the facts. The facts are that Victor Wembanyama was the number 1 overall pick. The transcendent big is possibly still the most coveted player in the league. Joel Embiid, Giannis, Joker. It just happens to be that all of them are international. So yeah, we're waiting for that USA transcendent big. I think the year that Kristaps went, right, it was Cat, Okafor, someone, and then Kristaps, I think. So that year it was like 3 out of the first 4 selections were bigs. But what happened? Jahlil Okafor is out of the league. Remember another dude who thrived in this tournament, Billy Hernan Gomez with Spain, sorry. He had promise in the league, former Nick. Post-up game, could score in bunches, back to the basket. He couldn't get a break. He couldn't even get any minutes. Now he goes to Barcelona. He's gonna do well in Europe, but he had a great tournament. So he's got skills, but yeah, the NBA doesn't value the post-up game too much now. If at all, if you've at least got passing skills, you will get some shine. We got obviously iHeart with some skills. So the fact that Josh Hart got a lot of minutes at the 4 for USA with Spoelstra, with Kerr, I think that lets me know that Josh Hart is their number 1 preference for the backup power forward spot. As crazy as it sounds, some people don't agree with it. I just don't think we have any other players ahead of him that Tom Thibodeau is going to trust. So I think that's what it comes down to. I really like Nathan Knight's potential, but that's something that we have to wait and see. It's just potential right now. But I do really like his promise. I like some things that Isaiah Roby can do. But we'll see. I think Josh Hart's, he's a good enough rebounder. A lot of teams in the NBA go small as well. Yeah, I like this selection. Booker, Trey, Dame for next year for Paris. Yep. Great selections. Yeah, throw in a Julius Randle for the physicality. Julius would have been perfect for this year if you substituted Bobby Portis. What do you think about that? And then I've obviously substituted maybe Kessler for Mitch or Bobby Portis for Mitch. I think that would have been enough. Yep. Dylan Brooks thriving for Team Canada with RJ Barrett. SGA boosted his stock, man. I don't know if that dude's been signed yet, but he's been, put in that position to get the Supermax. SGA. Cody saying, yeah, out of how it transpired, I don't want to see Hart playing the backup 4. Yeah, I feel you on that. I think guys sticking to their natural positions is always ideal. There's going to be times where we will get out rebounded. For me, it's all about the shooting as well, versatility. Another skill that Knight has is the shooting. that's something that he's been able to do. What's good, dirty? What's happening with the Giants? I haven't peeped the score yet. Quiet money's in the building. What's good? Chopping this FIBA situation up, tying a bow on it now, and putting it in the rearview mirror until Paris 2024. But the conversations will continue over the selection. Who is Team USA going to choose? It may not even be a foregone conclusion that Canada can get some of their guys. Everyone's talking about it like it's a conclusion. But let's say Jamal Murray goes all the way to the finals again, and he might want his summer. We don't know if Benedict Mathurin is going to choose yes and displace anybody. They was talking about Canada staying loyal to the dudes that won them this bronze. We wait and see, guys. But yeah, I take a B+ for Barrett in his role. Stepped up scoring in the pressure games. Still streaky at times. Still some questions defensively. But things seem to be trending in the right direction for a good year for RJ coming up. If he can carry this momentum into an NBA season, we'll see. Again, the factor is the three-point line is closer in FIBA. So could that have helped RJ Barrett's three-point shooting percentage get a bounce? I don't think it's the case. I think he still is what he is. I think 37.5% on three on 6 attempts is about what RJ Barrett is capable of. He was improving later into the season. I think the handles look pretty good. For a guy that was pressured, as I bring up, there was 2 moves. We see that one on the break, but there was a couple moves. One was the post up on Austin Reeves. Here, Austin Reeves was pressuring him. Turns him around, put him in the blender, and then makes the right read. So that's growth. And then the other one was when he used his size on Reeves here with the post-up game. As I've just got up on the screen, he was putting the moves on him there. So outside of that, man, I'm looking forward to this season more than anything. I think, we all got a taste of more playoff action. We won our first round in a decade. And I think, this FIBA thing's in the past now in terms of the Knicks. Our Knicks players taking what they can from it. I think the physicality, the competition will be good for these guys. I think the only thing that's going to be bad for them personally is the disappointment. But for the Knicks, I think that disappointment is going to fuel the 2 guys that missed out on a medal. And I think for RJ Barrett, it's going to make him feel more confident coming into a season now, having, reached the playoffs twice in 4 years and now won a bronze in a big FIBA competition. Now, best believe there's going to be some banter. There's going to be some words, some trash talk and spoke. Once Barrett, Brunson and Hart get to that Knicks locker room, there's going to be some back and forth kind of stuff. But that's good. Quiet says RJ played well in FIBA. I'll give him credit where credit is due. Shout out. Like I said, I'm not overreacting and saying he was a superstar or anything like that. I think out of any reasonable, realistic expectation, I think Barrett just delivered in terms of what a Knicks fan could hope him to deliver in this tournament, in doing what he was capable of for his team. It was really SGA scoring, Dylan Brooks defensively stepping up. You could argue the Knicks don't have the strength of the wing defenders, or you could say that the Knicks don't have the wing defenders Canada have with Brooks, with Lou Dort, and to take that pressure away from RJ. He could just be the scoring wing that he is with Canada, with SGA helping him out. So we'll see how he copes defensively, being the starting three still. But in terms of his conditioning, his strength, all of that, the man looks in really good shape right now. That's probably the most definition I've seen on RJ Barrett in terms of his upper physique. He's carved right now. If you see his upper arm there, he's definitely in good shape. I think coming in. One other positive I haven't mentioned is, I guess, that Brunson and Hart didn't play a lot of minutes, so they're healthy. They got through this tournament unscathed. Yes, they didn't win anything, but they're healthy and they didn't play a whole lot of minutes. Right, 20 minutes for Brunson, and was it 20 for Hart, or 18 average for Josh Hart? So they're not going to be gassed coming into off season and preseason now. But yeah, embarrassing for the outcome for Team USA. A lot of questions need to be asked. Yeah, Aaron Gordon could be a good pickup too. Yeah, good post-up game, good size. Yeah, Knicks one on Knight attacks the way Obi doesn't. I think Knight's a way more physical player, doesn't shy away from contact. I think can shoot the ball as well as Obi. Not as athletic, obviously, doesn't play above the rim as much as Obi does, but maybe the three-point shooting is better, more consistent. These guys, I think the way the Knicks pounced on these guys, they know what they can bring. And Dylan Windler is a 6'7" wing with size that can rebound. And Nathan Knight is that athletic combo power forward as well, that can play physical, can score, can shoot. And they're both 26 years old. So I think the Knicks are gearing up for a possible trade later down the line, and hopeful that these guys can come in and fill the gaps at where be. Yeah, we just never know if an injury happens and anything like that. But we got the Giants and the Cowboys on right now. What's the score? Whoa, not looking good for our Giants. I'm a Giants fan. Not so much diehard, but Giants definitely my team. But tough matchup, first up. Down 16-0 to the Cowboys. Wow. That's crazy, right? First tough matchup. We've got the Jets versus the Bills tomorrow as well. So we'll see. We'll see if the Giants can live up to the season before. But yeah, that's a tough matchup to start. Man. Yeah, I also like the flyer on Charlie Brown too. I'm really looking for him to see, we need extra size, we need wings. To me, I don't really know if there's a need for Daquan Jeffries, 6'5". He's redundant. You're telling me he's not going to get ahead of DiVincenzo, Quickly, Hart, Deuce. He's way, way down the pecking order. So why not just sign a dude with more size, more versatility? Now, these camp guys, right? Trevor Keels will get waived or whenever. He'll be in Westchester. Dwayne Washington will also be in Westchester. He'll probably get waived. Skapensev, being a versatile big that can shoot, score, rebound, he's a flyer to maybe make it. And then Brown, we mentioned. Jacob Toppin is not on a roster spot. He's also on just a camp invite. So they will have to waive somebody to make way. And I don't see them waiving Jalen Martin, Nate Knight, or Windler. Now, a Fournier trade might change things. We'll see. Unfortunately, no team, I think, has salary cap space to just absorb Evan Fournier by himself and send back a draft pick. I think it's going to have to be a player incoming. I think because of the 18 milli and the salary. Yep. But yeah, in the Knicks versus the FIBA game would have been interesting. I think we do have some good FIBA players in Randall and Mitch, and obviously Bully Barrett. We know Quentin Grimes can deal with physicality quickly also. Uh, so Cody's still looking forward to the season. Things looking good, but feeling like the question marks over the 4 spot still warranted. If I'm guessing, I think Tom Thibodeau feels the same way. I think Tom Thibodeau would prefer probably more size, but I think coming into the season early on, I think they're willing to give it a shot with Hart, and knowing that Isaiah Roby, Barrett, and Nathan Knight is still there if they needed, kind of as an insurance. And yeah, that's why I gave these fringe signings a B+. I think in my review, I think they did. I think they did well for players with still young enough in age with some upside. I think there's been some situational issues with Nathan Knight and no minutes, no opportunity. And I think in the case of Windler, it's just been injuries and him unable to get on the floor. But I think, yeah, good flyers. Definitely. Even Isaiah Roby. I know people weren't happy with his summer league, but Isaiah Roby was coming back from a surgery earlier in the year. He was rehabbing, so I think we'll get to see what Roby can do as well. I think in camp, it's going to be competitive. Don't forget about our guy Jericho Sims. Big Jericho Sims also. I don't know if he's going to be available for FIBA, but I did hear some rumors that Jericho Sims might be available to play for, I think it's the Dominican Republic, if I'm not mistaken. I think he has some citizenship with one of the Central American countries, I think. So Jericho Sims might be playing in FIBA. You see a lot of these players come up next year as well for the Olympics. Ben Simmons has put his hand up to play for Australia now. There's been a lot of debate over how that's going to play out. I think he needs to stay healthy first. Yeah, we see what happens. But yeah, our guys didn't play many minutes in FIBA outside of Barrett. So, and he's healthy, he's young. I think we're ready for a great preseason. So we have Boston, we have Minnesota 5 days later, and then 3 days later Boston again, and then back to back with Washington. So 3-1 at the minimum. I think 4-4 would be great. 4 and zip for this preseason. But obviously, I think those Boston games we're not gonna go as full out, knowing that we're playing them on opening night. I think that's kind of crazy. Playing Boston 3 times in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah, I think they want to keep one of those spots open. You're right, in terms of carrying 14 in. So we're too close to the tax, and then we keep that spot available if needed for flexibility. And every year, the NBA tells us that the good players become available. Good players get waived. They're just not happy with their situations. You just never know. It trades. To be honest, I think we could do with one more shooter and possibly a veteran. A veteran shooter might still come up in here. I think you can never go wrong with another shooter, especially if we lose Fournier. We technically haven't replaced Dante. Dante is just a like-for-like swap with Fournier, basically. But we still need to sign, I think, one more wing shooter if possible. We'll see what's out there. Yeah, Skapensev's, yeah, he's a dude who, yeah, definitely looked good in summer league. I think he's another older guy, 25, plays in Europe. Handy to have around, maybe in Westchester. I unfortunately, I don't think he's going to stick on a two-way. He might have to displace somebody on the regular roster as well. So we'll see. Also, don't rule out a bit of swapping and changing. Don't think that, let's say Roby doesn't look good or they want to waive him. They want to give Nathan Knight a full roster spot. That's possible. Let's say Nathan Knight averages double-double in the preseason and looks great in training camp, looks worthy of a backup for a spot. I think they'll make that swap. And then maybe that opens up the two-way for that situation, guys. But yeah, preseason's coming at us quick. The next couple of shows will be all about the season, right? Breaking down the storylines coming into the season. What are the biggest storylines heading in? We'll be looking at the Eastern landscape, still getting our opinions from people on, how the East is going to play out. Damian Lillard looks like he's going to report to camp. James Harden looks like he's not going to get traded yet as well. We'll get guests on. We'll start focusing on the NBA season ahead. I keep checking the odds. We're still 44.5 over under. You got to take it. I think depth is there. I think health permitting, the New York Knicks are absolutely on track for more than 44 wins, right? 48 was my official projection with that situation. But with that said, man, congrats to RJ Barrett once again, putting in work for Team Canada, building a resume in his career now. Playoffs, bronze medal. We know he wants more than that. Hopefully this fuels the fire. But I think it's definitely going to fuel the fire for Brunson and Josh Hart. And I think they're going to come into this season with that chip and ready for the New York Knicks to get back to where they belong. That's the NBA Finals. We wait to see what happens around the league. Kristaps Porzingis got plantar fascia, so he's not a factor with Boston at the moment. Yep, and I think that's something where, is eye-opening, because the Knicks could have the wood over Boston as well. But once again, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Streets are buzzing, smashing that like button. Yeah, and we'll catch you on the next episode. We won't be long, maybe a couple days. We'll be back next week. And peace. Have a great weekend. Rest of the weekend, let's get it.